Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. We're playing e4 as per flipping usual, a Caro Kann. My opponent provides me with the uniquely wonderful opportunity to absolutely dismantle the Caro Kann, an opening which is far too overrated. You know, it's a good opening, but due to the popularization of it via many prominent YouTubers, of course, there are people that swear by this as the greatest thing to ever exist, and I'm just here to tell you, look, push past. You know, we're going to demolish the Caro Kann. Knight c3. We're not going to play knight f3. We're going to play... Hello. Okay, my opponent might know what they're doing here. The most common move there is e6, locking the bishop out of this territory, and then we can play for g4 ideas, you know, force the bishop back, step across to e2 with the knight, maybe come out to knight f4. You know, these g4 Shirov variation ideas are indeed very, very compelling, but my opponent immediately going for h6 here, a little slow, but the kind of move that prophylactically creates the space on h7 such that if I do go g4, the bishop immediately retreats. Now, I'm going to start with f4. I've never seen this before. I'm just going to come up with something here. I think f4 makes some sense. I think I might go for g4 anyway. I think I might then also go for a bit of f5, or maybe we'll go for this. Maybe we'll start with g4. Maybe we won't start with g4. If I go for g4, I get hit with queen h4 check. Okay, right. Maybe I start with h4 to not allow that. Then if you like develop a knight or something, g4, the bishop goes back, bishop d3, you trade this off, I go bishop e3, castle queenside. Like, I'm happy with that expansion. Knight f3, rook f1, try and break with f5. That looks pretty nice. The only problem right now is if I go for h4 and you play h5 here, which looks a little weird, of course, because you've played h6 already, why would you play h5? But then I'm never really playing g4, and this just becomes a hole here because I've pushed the h-pawn and f-pawn past it. Maybe you just occupy it with the bishop. I don't know. But if h4 and h5, I think I'm probably fine there at the very least. Like, I can always play bishop e2. I think I'm going to start with h4. We're going to push a lot of pawns over here. A lot of pawns over here indeed. I'm kind of telegraphing my idea here. My broad, yeah, damn, okay. I was going to say my broad brushstrokes approach to the Caro Kann is basically like launch as many pawns as I can on this side of the board. Trying to punish this bishop for, or at least this variation of the Caro Kann, not the Botvinnik Karl's variation, but try and punish this bishop for daring to dream that it could be anything other than a bad French bishop within the context of this pawn structure here. Okay, bishop d3. If you want to go for this, maybe I go bishop e2. Maybe I just go here. Right, you know what? We're going to just see, we're going to just feel it out. See what our opponent's feeling, you know? f5 is fascinating. This cannot make sense unless it can, in which case I guess it does. It's an insightful speech there. I want to take en passant. If you play knight takes, I guess bishop takes, then you can take here. I'm just, now you've pushed the f-pawn and the h-pawn as well, so g5 is also a hole in the same way that g4 is a hole, and I can hopefully very quickly get my knight in there, which I could go for pretty immediately, honestly. Okay, you know what? Knight f3. Do I like knight f3? Yeah, I like knight f3. Maybe they get rid of this and then just try and close up the position as much as possible and say, listen, actually your bishop pair is useless within this very close position, and I've just got a couple knights and they're going to reign supreme. Golly, okay, they've gone for it. Fair enough. If I do this to keep an open h file, that's just, I don't know, I don't like the look of that. We'll take like this. Presumably you're going to play g6 here. Okay, they do go for that exact plan. Interesting stuff. So they really build up on these light squares. That trade of the light square bishop for the knight there definitely makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking it would of course be nice to get my knight here, so maybe some knight e2, knight g1, knight h3, knight g5 rerouting, given that I can't go via e4 of course anytime soon at the very least. So that's a vague idea. I think we'll also just start with a bishop e3 though, bring the bishop out, maybe the queen, maybe we can castle. A little pressure here. Probably I am going to have to play g3. I could go bishop here. I don't know why I wouldn't play g3. I think I'll start with g3. Right, we've got, I mean, a small space advantage. Actually, a rather large space advantage, I guess. You know, you're not wildly comfortable with these knights here, but you're definitely going to be playing for c5, and that is scaring me slightly. So, queen d2 here. This is very interesting, actually. It's very, very locked up and closed already. If I can open stuff up, my bishop pair should thrive. So, if you start making pawn breaks, maybe that's a good idea, but maybe also there's a few questions you could ask as to, do you want to open some stuff up? I'm also thinking, it would seem natural to castle queenside, of course, behind these nice 3 healthy pawns. I've pushed literally every pawn on the king side and also the d pawn, so this general vicinity is probably not going to be wildly safe for my king, unless you realize that we got a lot of closure here. Their only pawn break on this side of the board is g5, to which I can just take it and probably lock everything up anyway, like f takes and bishop f4, or h takes and then I guess just go after this h pawn. Like, I feel like castling kingside is maybe the way to go here. Getting my king as far away from potentially where we've still got the potential, really doubling up on potential there, not a fantastic example of my otherwise wonderful vocabulary. But I don't know. I want to make pawn breaks over here. I want to open some stuff up. They're making pawn breaks over here, so let me leg it with the king. Hopefully that makes some sense at least. I'm also thinking there's some universe where I definitely look to sack a piece to break some stuff open, get e6. I mean, yeah, already knight e5. It's starting to look tempting. Obviously, I don't want to trade the queens in that context. Wait, hold on. I don't think that works. Okay. Oh my lord, it does. Knight e6. Hold on. Knight d5. Wait, I didn't even realize this queen's loose. My queen's not. So I can go knight d5 here, and if you trade the queens, I go check. If you go across this way or across this way, fine, because then I'm not compelled to move my knight immediately and can simply recapture here. And if you come across here, I can go check. You don't have one of these two moves that would chase the knight, and then the king's going to move either to e2, e8 or c8, then I recapture the queen, and we're just up 2 pawns. I think this just wins, and you can't take this because of this. Absolutely outrageous stuff. Absolutely outrageous stuff. Loose pieces, drop off is the general wisdom, of course. But also, you know, loose pieces, they are the subject of tactical consideration. And right now, I'm threatening to take your queen. That's it. Take back? Do they want to do? I've just offered a take back to them. Like, they've just hung their queen. That is not. This is crazy. I don't know. I mean, that is a free win, by the way, that I'm turning down here. A free win indeed. That I'm turning. Why'd they not give me the take back? Okay, I'm playing this again. How about don't hang your queen this time? How about don't hang your queen this time? I want to earn this win. I want to earn this win. My opponent, for some reason, didn't request a take back, but I've done it on behalf of them. Taking back 2 moves to then play this one again and give them yet another chance to, you know, not hang their queen. That's more like it. Okay. Now, that was definitely risky because I don't have the most time and I'm only a pawn up. But, I mean, what kind of content is it if they just hang their queen? So, I can get this and I can permanently own the dark squares. I might do so. Knight takes. I'm gonna play this. Oh, you know what? Let's keep the initiative. If I step back, you've now got to move to do something. You know? Maybe this wasn't the best idea. Maybe this knight could have been far more useful. I never really see me going into f6. Here, if I take knight takes, I'm also thinking I just have this here and then maybe I set up a pin. You go in like this. I just like d5 as well, you know? I really like d5. Here, knight takes. We're very much restricting this. I guess here and here is an option. Bang, here. I move this and pin the knight. You take on b2. I just don't love that. Something's telling me to play d5. And if you take, I guess... I'm playing d5. Sometimes your pieces tell you to make a certain pawn break. And in this case, for some reason, this is the pawn break that's being called out to me. Maybe I could have just won a pawn there, but it felt like they got some counterplay. And maybe this and castles, and probably need to keep this light square bishop to be able to chop off this knight if it gets too problematic here. I don't know. I'm just thinking the bishop pair, like, things are opening up. I've got my bishop pair. You got a couple knights. I've got an insane space advantage, a weirdly safe king, and that's a move, I guess. What the hell? I have d6. Just defending this. Okay. Probably I need to take though, right? Here. Bishop here, possibly. Maybe I'll just start with rook d1. Okay, we do need to make sure I'm hurrying up. You know, they've played a basically useless looking move that doesn't develop anything, and I'm getting my rooks to the d file. Now here, there's something exciting about getting this pass pawn secured here, but I think we take, because I think we want to open this up, and I think we want to open these up, and I think bishop here looks to be something of a no-brainer. I mean, you've got to just go queen e7, and now I can do this? Oh my lord, surely, right? Here, and then do I eventually just... Here, e6. Or are you just going to unpin in time? You might unpin in time. Rook here. If e6, maybe and you take, then I'm going for some rook e1 ideas. Hold on. e6 immediately is a threat. You have to take. Then bishop f2 with the idea to just go rook e1. Oh, do you know what? I just trust it. I just trust it. It looks too beautiful to be... Oh, no, I don't trust it. I don't trust it at all. I don't have the tempo. What an idiot. This is hanging. Ah. Just before we get back into the video, I'd like to take a brief moment to thank the sponsor, Nocti AI. Nocti is a human-like chess AI trained on over 1 billion games, directly sourced from the Lichess database, making it an ideal sparring partner for improvement. If I click play chess here, I can choose the difficulty, so it can play around my rating, in which case I stand to gain a reasonable amount of rating, or I can make it much weaker or much stronger. But let's say I choose Rook 3 around 2000 strength and click let's play. We're going to get into the game E4 here, and then you'll notice that as Nocti replies, the moves are color-coded. As you can see here, if we click color guide, Nocti will live cover your moves, live insights. You can toggle this off if you're not a fan, but in training games it can be very helpful. But it will color code the moves according to the quality as perceived, and this is the fantastic bit, not by an engine. This isn't just like live having Stockfish, you know, telling you what you're doing. The colors are designed to emulate having a grandmaster standing over your shoulder, a human with a very strong intuition who effectively gives their initial reaction either a grimace of disgust with this blunder here, or possibly a raised eyebrow and a with an excellent move. If you're remotely interested, check out the link in the description. Thank you to Nocti for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. Okay, I didn't see this was hanging at all. That's unbelievably unfortunate. No, 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 no. Now you start chasing me away. Okay, okay, okay. That is not good. That is not good. That is not good. I'll just hang a bishop with check. I hate this game. Okay, good. I honestly think if they'd taken this, I was maybe going to get some serious counterplay and mating ideas. So actually, I'm happy about this. Because if you go here, you hang a knight. If you go here, I can maybe do this, and you're still pinned to this rook here, knight here. Listen, I'm sure this hasn't been necessarily the most accurate of conversions. However, we won the game, whatever, 10 moves ago when we won a free queen. We're now just playing for fun, you know? And I'm sure I just made several blunders. I'm sure the graph is going to have, you know, extraordinary fluctuation where, okay, here. I mean, I don't know why you're trading here. Here, and if you take, then I just do this, and your rook's hanging, and then I can save my bishop, so you've got to recapture first. And with a minute 10, I do believe we'll start with the check, might as well. Why not? Why not? Why not? And then it's king f2 time, and I think we've just got a bishop and a pawn here. And this should be a game that we can mop up relatively comfortably. Do you know what? This. I might actually reroute to here. I don't know. I want to get this bishop active. I kind of want to get it to e5. And via here seems to make some sense. If I do this, maybe this is kind of unpleasant. Maybe you do this, and I can't come here. If I go bishop c1, bishop b2, it's legitimately interesting. If you take, I can take this way and maintain symmetry here. You know, not give you the ability to create a passed pawn, which is limiting counterplay right now. And it just seems, it seems too clean to blunder. I'm sure there will have been a couple of blunders along the way there, but I think maintaining the symmetry is a really useful point, though, a really instructive point, especially for beginners. Like, if you're in an endgame with an advantage, don't give your opponent asymmetry with the pawns, because then they can create a passed pawn and then you start worrying about stuff. Whereas right now, no passed pawns, you know? No passed pawns, and I'm chilling. And bishop e5, and golly, maybe I'm the greatest chess player of all time. They might bring the king in, honestly. It's gonna be kind of annoying. I'm gonna do this. Give me a check, I can just go and chill here. I just want to keep the king out, you know? If you go behind this, I can easily play rook d4 at the very least. We'll start with this, though, because you can't go here because I win your rook, so you have to go back to b7. And then again, it just feels like I can do this, protect this, eventually bring the bishop here, stabilize this pawn, and just not give you anything compensation-wise. Bishop here, bishop here. And then just go in and eat these loose pawns. Fixed. And oh so problematic. And I do believe it's time for this, and this, and you can do this, but then this. You don't have like a bunch of follow-up checks here. And I think it's time for a rook d6. A drive your king back, and a thank you very much for your free pawn here, because you cannot come and defend this. And if you give a check, I'll just play this, you know? I'll just play this. You've got no follow-up. Everything is wonderfully held. Wonderfully, wonderfully held. My palms, for some reason, so sweaty, as Eminem prophesized. Yeah, you just don't have the continued checks. Each time I can just play another move, eat another couple of your pawns, you know? Here, and I might just do this and this and this. Might be that simple. Here, we'll start with that at least. And check. And maybe I'll go like this and this. I'm just gonna make some nice slow progress. Some nice, slow progress. The king's trapped in. I start pushing the F pawn actually. What am I doing? I've got another pass pawn here. I've got 3 connected passes. Just staying out the way of possible checks. Here. Make a queen, because my bishop now defends beautifully. And this is going to be the forced simplification. We'll just put that back there. Just put that back there just to keep it nice and clean, you know? Keep it nice and clean. And now all I need to do is not stalemate. So we'll start with a check. And then we'll hit him with, I believe, another check. And if here, we'll hit him with another check. I'm just going to keep checking. Keep on checking. And you know what? This is how you don't stalemate. You play bishop b6 here. And then put the bishop on a5. And now, my bishop's not going to be holding g1 in some way that I never possibly foresaw. Honestly, you know, frankly embarrassing technique that I'm still resorting to this kind of thing. But, you know, now it's just the queen. It's just the knight shadow away from the king. Knight shadow away from the king. You go here. I go here. You go here. I can go here. Knight shadow away from that king. Bring the queen to e2. The king will be left to hopelessly oscillate between g1 and h1. Like a depressed Newton's cradle, as my king is then able to be brought in to g3, and queen g2 will be mate. Thank you very much. GG. Nice! Okay, now as we watch the graph load, oh, hello. Okay, that's not too bad. We can deal with that. I'm seeing some slight losingness here. Now, if I was never more losing than that, this is pretty clean. At what point did this go completely wrong? c5. Golly. Yeah, this knight e5 was just a tactic that jumped out at me at the right moment. I was just honestly thinking about a knight sack, but yeah, it ended up being a direct tactic here. And then, we gave our opponent the take back, of course, for a far more exciting game. But 3 inaccuracies, those are badge of honor inaccuracies, most likely. I guess we'll diagnose them as we see them. 2 mistakes. There was a mistake here. I was about to kind of, you know, go, oh, that's not a mistake, that's a mistake. I should have just taken the rook. Yeah, my bad. And then there was a mistake. Queen d6 was a mistake because I hung this. But even then, I'm still very winning. I guess let's go through it from the start real quick. We'll keep it nice and chronological. None of this anachronistic analysis. The word anachronistic hopefully making up for earlier, where I said potentially twice. But we'll open up the Masters database and we can see the Caro Kann. b4, e5, we went for this Shirov variation, or the Van der Wiel attack, as it's known in the Lichess database. I attribute this, as do many people, and I think the book that I first saw it, when a mate sent this variation to me, was known as the Shirov attack, attributing it to Alexei Shirov, one of my personal favourite contemporary grandmasters. Normally, e6 is played, as you can see, in which case g4 is exciting, as I said. h6 here. Played 16 times in the Masters database. I wonder how common this is in the Lichess database. Okay, 2% of the time, but we're looking at 50,000 games. Like, this move is played. Majority of the time, you're going to see e6. You can carry on with this idea. After h6, though, I mean, I guess the Masters database, g4 was still played. Oh, okay. I was the first to deviate with my f4 there. What's the best move? g4 still. I just thought that g4 made less sense because they can immediately... Hello. Okay. Interesting. Right. This is now prep. I will endeavor to remember this if ever h6. g4 anyway, because if bishop g6, we transpose back into some ideas. Most likely bishop g6, knight here, e6, f4. This ends up being, I think, something that I've gone for a bunch of times. Or maybe it's h4 and then c5. And then I bet this transposes into some games that have been played in the Masters database. No? Come on. Yeah, there we go. Okay, fine. Alexei Shirov, look, absolute beast. But now I guess the new prep is if here, bang, e6 works. And that's very exciting. Here, if you take, this is just a problem. You don't have knight here. This looks very Alien Gambit-esque almost. The same kind of idea where h6 is played and, you know, there's no... or rather Martian Gambit-esque, I guess. Yeah, so this is pretty beautiful stuff. And I guess if e5, we can just take, rook takes... Pick this up. Okay, sure. That'll be my approach in the future. For now, I went for f4, just kind of a useful, almost prophylactic move saying, listen, I'm setting this up anyway. I kind of missed the fact that after e6, g4, there'd be queen h4, so probably this move just made no sense. I went for h4. This was inaccurate. I wanted to go for this. If you would let me go for this, I believe g4 would have been, there we go, bang, bang, and now f5, perfect, and we start to expand in a crazy way over here. This was the idea that I had in mind. At least h5 wasn't a surprise to me. Oh, flipping out. Sorry about that. But bishop d3 reasonable. Bishop comes back. I just wanted to see what they were doing here. Knight h6. They should have developed the knight and defended this. Instead, f5, presumably assuming that I would play the forced en passant, even though it's not really forced, let's be honest. But maybe in my opponent's calculation, they just assumed I would not be able to resist en passant. And then, at this point, if you get a knight here, your computer actually likes h takes, okay, what the hell. I just assumed if you got a knight here, things would be looking fantastic for you, but guess there's pressure on e6. So they should have gone for knight h6. Instead, they went for this, knight f3, and at this point, they chop this off. And now, kind of for the rest of the game, if I can open stuff up, things are going to be looking good for me because I've got this bishop pair. Of course, you know, we play the g3, we stabilize. This is looking quite closed. Queen d2, they go for queen a5. Kingside castles. The best kind of inaccuracy. Kingside castling into pushed f, g, and h pawns where it's completely playable. And here, you got to go for a bishop b4. a3, maybe it takes, and then, you know, try and pivot the knight into here. Maybe I've got to go here and get rid of it. I get some activity down the b file or something, I don't know. Instead, you can kind of forgive them for making the logical looking pawn break, and then this. Now, you can't forgive them for then taking this knight, blundering their queen, but we, in an act of unparalleled magnanimity, I think that means what it means. Okay, just did a quick check. It absolutely does. What a perfect use of that word. I'm really redeeming myself here for that potentially earlier on. But then, look at this. Keep the initiative. We don't want to just step back and give you a move here. We keep the initiative. You've got to do this. And d5. It likes preparing with this, but also d5 immediately. Basically identical. Hell yeah. We don't want to take here and give you this. I mean, again, it would have been reasonable. Even rook here. It's very reasonable stuff. But d5, best move. Bring the rook in, best move. Take here, best move. Bishop here, nearly best move. Bishop here, we're looking absolutely fantastic. Unbelievable amounts of pressure being mounted. Here, and this. I mean, I said it. I could have done it. Queen d6 here would have actually been unbelievably strong as well. Okay. At this point, I played e6, thinking, then I can just do this and this. But of course, I'd have hung my bishop, lost the pin, and lost the game. So then I kind of panicked. Oh my lord, there's bishop d4. Didn't even think about that. Kind of wanted to keep the bishop on the board anyway. Panicked and went for this. They could have, of course, taken on here. But then king g2, and I'm legitimately just winning anyway. King h3, and there's a threat of this. Or, okay, I'm going to have to play maybe bishop here at some point. And then you go back with the queen here, and then fe5. And if here I go here, what on earth is going on? Oh my lord, that's disgusting. Wait, no, sorry, intermezzo. Yeah, there'd have been some crazy lines there, of course. Instead, my opponent decides to sort the queens off the board, but I'm infiltrating here. Knight f6 clearly made no sense. If this, I could have taken, I could have come in here, I could have stacked the rooks. There'd have been problems. Reroute the bishop. You know, I'm still doing well enough. However, this is an unforgivable blunder. But, you know, we did forgive the other blunder that they made in hanging their queen. This one, they're not going to be so lucky. We picked this up, and then the art of mopping up here, you know, create a position where I'm not worried about too much. Get my pieces as good as I can, defend the pawn, not give them any kind of counterplay, and then king f3, b3. Fantastic. Okay, could have gone for c4. I really like this rerouting of the bishop. Slapping it on e5 then limits counterplay quite a lot. And then I'm just, yeah, I'm mopping up. We can turn off the engine here. This was actually, I believe, apart from the moment at which I missed the free rook on g1, we're actually looking rather fantastic here in terms of, yeah, just rolling it up, making that. Thank you very much. And then once we get the queen, yeah, just saying, listen, I'm trying to mate you in this corner of the board, you know? I'm trying to cut some stuff down here. When the queen is sort of night shadowing the king, my intuition tells me that the king has this square, and maybe I overlook that with low time to the fact that the bishop holds this square and creates some kind of stalemate scenario. So that's why I literally just went bishop here and bishop a5. Now the bishop is not remotely involved in anything on this side of the board, and I can use the normal night shadow technique, force that king into this little tomb here where it's going to oscillate back and forth. As I say, we can walk up and then checkmate. Thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out the Patreon. There are videos just like this one posted every single Sunday, a bonus exclusive Patreon only video. There are 37 or 38 exclusive, never before seen, to your eyes at least, unless I'm speaking to a patron, in which case, legend, cheers. Top of the range Will Taylor chess videos ready for your ravenous consumption. If you support the channel via the Patreon, you'll also get your name at the end of all of my videos on the esteemed patron scroll. You get discounts from stuff that I sell on the Patreon, namely the Blumenfeld Bible. And all round, if you want to support my general YouTube venture, it's the best way to do so. But if you are not remotely interested, I nevertheless massively appreciate your viewership. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.